a very special webinar by Alex Collier, held by wolfspirit.tv in association with alexcollier.org. To wherever you may be on this beautiful planet of ours, currently orbiting a rather interesting star. Right now, this is the fourth webinar we have with our dear friend Alex Collier, who, well, we're all a bit croaky this week. I don't know whether it's the chemtrails, the CERN, or something, but it's all a bit so. Please excuse any roughness in our voices. We are doing our best. It's been a hell of a week. So, good afternoon, Alex. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning for you, isn't it? Yeah.
Good afternoon, James. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the flu. So if I should disappear from the screen, it's because I'm going to blow my nose or something. Thank you all for being here very much, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I want to thank JP and James for their help in doing these webinars. Without them, it would not have happened. It wouldn't happen. And I want my children to know that I love them and I miss them. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been current events. There's just so much going on. If you're paying attention, there's so much going on in the world, and incredible amounts of fear, incredible amounts of hype, and I want you to know this is all by design. And we're gonna do a little bit of history today because it's relevant to what's going on currently. According to Mornay and Phaseus, one of the absolute darkest points or periods on our planet, vibrationally, was the Middle Ages. And what's interesting about that whole period is that it began shortly after the Archons showed up here on Earth. And they were extremely instrumental in creating religious wars as well as racial wars. And if you look at some of the things that the Crusaders did in those times, burning at the stake, lighting people on fire, decapitation, hanging, crucifixions, it's interesting that now we have ISIS doing the exact same thing to anyone who isn't a radical Muslim. And that's the vibration that they are trying to recreate, is this very, very dark energy. Because things are accelerating at an alarming rate. What I mean by alarming, that's probably not the appropriate word. Things are accelerating towards the light, towards a much higher frequency that the powers that be, and when I refer to them, I'm referring to not only the dark alien groups, but also the dark human groups, or the enslaving human groups and the enslaving ET groups. Okay? So the powers that be have decided to put the metal to the pedal. And they are accelerating world events because they want to create this frequency very much like the Middle Ages, because it was so dark, it was so dense, and they're pushing all of our hot buttons. Religion, racial strife, they know exactly how to get to us. And this is what they're doing. I've also been told by M. Mornay that they're going to try to start a war, and that Obama is going to try to start a war in Syria with the Russians. I sincerely hope this doesn't happen. I can tell you that there is intervention on multiple levels, but it is not overt yet, obviously. The issue, the biggest issue still is, and it has been for quite some time, is the fact that this is a holographic, real-life chess game. The pieces are alive, but they're unaware. All right? And we're the pieces. And we need to step up our game a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because I know that there's so much uncertainty. But what's imperative to remember when you see all of this drama playing out is that where energy flows, where focus goes. They want our attention. Because the more attention we pay to this drama, to spectacular events, to sorrow and grief, and just horrible acts of aggression, senseless, horrible acts of aggression. What's important is to ask yourself, is there anything that I can do to change this particular event? And in 99% of the times, the answer is no. So it has been suggested that you bless the event to everyone's highest good, and you continue to focus on what it is that you want that is positive in your life. All right? So, in other words, don't feed the drama. If you've studied quantum physics, you know that whatever your focus is, you will draw that experience to you. And it doesn't matter how it is, all right, or how small it is, you will draw that experience to you. This entire holograph of what we call our third density reality on Earth, you, me, all the others, our focused intent on this holograph is what gives it its solidity. So we are literally creating this. We're the creators of this. It is not the ETs. It is not the powers that be, though they have their manipulative tools that they use. It is us. The more we buy into this reality, the more solidified and real it becomes. And they are using coercion, manipulation, of all sorts on multiple levels to create the solidity of this reality. But the power lies with us. You have to remember this. And if you don't feed this drama, if you focus on what it is that you want, the beautiful things, the positive things, the loving things, the healing things that you want in your life, if you stay focused on that, we will hold the vibration of love here. And that is imperative to do. We can't let these bastards win. There's just no way we can do this. They need to leave. They have to go. They have to let us go. And we have to keep working on this. We have to keep holding the light. We have to keep focusing on positive energy, frequency, on light, all right, until more people wake up and we can truly tip that scale. This is why these guys, these beings, have flipped the switch and are now, if you'll pardon the expression, are going balls to the wall here, okay? Because there's a major shifts are occurring and they're losing control. And they need to lose control. They need to go away. It's time for them to leave. Now, the history of religious wars is very easy to study. The piece that everyone is missing is the ET piece, okay, the manipulative ET piece by the Orion Group, and how they manipulated humanity to constantly go after itself, to tear itself apart. Because if you can get it to tear itself apart through religion, through racial disgust or racial inequality, you essentially don't really have to do anything to control the masses. You just need to sit back, and occasionally, at periods where enlightenment is beginning to come, you just push the buttons and they start to go after each other, like the analogy that I've given you in the past about the crab pot, where, you know, several crabs try to get up, or one crab tries to get up and get out of the bucket, and the others pull them back in, okay? This is the scenario. We have to break from the past. And we have to truly expand our horizons to see what's really going on here. It's imperative to focus on the big picture. Who benefits by a world at war? The bankers get money, but it's only paper, okay? It's still only paper. Who really benefits? Okay, it's all about control of us. And those who are in control of us are not spiritual, soulful beings. Okay, we are. We're the ones creating this holograph, this Vidya. Okay, with our intent, with our passion, with our focus. We're the ones. So the power lies with us. And I cannot stress this enough to you. The only thing that they're really good at, this playbook that they're running, you know, is creating fear, apprehension, and uncertainty. And what that does is that throws us into fear. And we can't buy into that anymore. We just can't. This is a very real scenario, and it's time for us we have to step up our game. We have to declare with one voice that we are the human race, and we are not going to put up with this crap anymore. It's just, you know, when I watch when I'm able to listen to the news radios or see a news program of just how these nations are tearing themselves apart, you have to stop and ask yourself, who's benefiting from this? And it's obviously not humanity. You know, what it's doing is it's weakening humanity. It is tearing humanity apart. It is decentralizing the core of who we are, brothers and sisters. It's just ripping it apart to shreds and creating more and more distrust, which makes us all the more controllable. I just so wish people would get this. We are moving into the galactic plane. I hear NASA and others call it the Oort cloud, whatever. It's a plasmic field. It's electric. It responds to frequency. Our frequency is rising. The Earth's frequency is rising. The Earth's human resonance is off the charts, ladies and gentlemen, and it continues to rise. She is moving into fifth density. And if we don't move with her, she will be forced to make changes to the surface of the planet so that she can move. And unfortunately, you know, who's on the surface of the planet? Well, that's us. We have to maintain our level of frequency. We have to continue to rise in harmony. And unfortunately, this work is difficult because we can only work on ourselves. And then once we ourselves are in that place of harmony, once we are in that place of holding on to the light and knowing our true selves, knowing that we are multidimensional beings, and I mean, and it's solid inside of us. Can we put that frequency out to others. We just have to do it. We just have to do it. We have to bless others all the time and try to hold them in the highest light. Even events, we have to try to hold in the highest of lights. Okay? The New World Order it's doing their thing. They are absolutely doing their thing, and these guys are not going to quit, which is a real bummer. They're going to do their thing. But help is coming, but we have to do our part. We just do. And we know we do. You know, those of us, we know that we have to do everything we can. And right now, it is not feeding our energy, feeding our focus, or feeding our intent on these horrible, horrible events that are happening in the world. They are all being done on purpose to lower our frequency, to create fear. I've had many people send me emails regarding the group ISIS. Sadly, it appears that their funding is coming from governments. And that's horrible, horrible karma. That is just horrible karma. And I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I don't know that there is anything that I can do with that. But, you know, let me just share with you that everything that is going on here, all the manipulations, they're all being recorded, they're all being monitored. Nothing is not known. Okay? Nothing is not known to the good guys. But like I said, it's a chess game. It's a real-life, multi-dimensional chess game that is taking place on 3rd, 4th, and 5th density. The pieces are real and the pieces are live. But they are also, for the most part, completely unaware that they're being used in this chess game. And those pieces are us. It's humanity on Earth. So we talked about Obama. We've talked about he wants to do this war. He has been ordered to do it. I want to also share with you most of the world's religions have a slim element of truth to them. And I may be preaching to the choir, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of new people here. None of them are 100% right. Not even close. In fact, most of them only have maybe...
And so at this moment, we lost the recording. However, the webinar seemed to carry on just as it did. So what we decided to do was that I would call Alex. This is the next day, this is Saturday, and ask him to kind of reiterate what he said yesterday, to fill in the 40 minutes that was missing from the YouTube archive, which we were going to make the video from. So here we are. What you'll have for the next 40 minutes, I'll just have some pictures to go with as much as I can. This is not ideal, but this is what we were left with. We could see it as an attack, but maybe we could just see it as just another glitch. It just happened to coincidentally have a lot of very important information in it. So, without further ado, please enjoy the telephone conversation, followed by the rest of the archive video that was preserved. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in the webinar, for some reason, the Google servers did a 180 and deleted pretty much the meat of the presentation during the webinar. And so I am here with JP, and we are doing an audio rebroadcast, and we are going to do our best to fill in all the blanks and hopefully add some information that wasn't in the webinar from yesterday. Those of you who saw it live saw the entire presentation. We can't explain it. It obviously appears to be some kind of a hack. So we're just going to have to do the best we can, and with that, we're going to continue the presentation. Where it cut off is where I was referring to religions and how only a very small percentage of truth is left in religions. And I will give a couple of examples in this presentation, and then we'll continue to go on. Now the opinions that I'm about to share are not only shared by me, but by millions of people on the planet, and also the benevolent ETs. They are fully aware of the control and manipulation that religions are about. Even the regressives know this, but they use them as tools to control and manipulate people on the surface. And as long as we're fighting with each other, we don't have to worry about them, or we'll even look for them, or even question whether or not there is a force, a power, something, that we can't clearly define behind, all of the troubles of the world. And how is it that so many people can write songs of love, and so many people can get married, and how young people fall in and out of love, and how it is that we all yearn for love, and yet we live in a war that is continuously fighting with each other, and people just simply don't seem to get along. And that, of course, is done by design to lower our frequency, to lower our vibration, to create a negative field. Christianity. What we're seeing now is what the A's have said is that the powers that be are trying to create the same frequency that existed during the Middle Ages. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Middle Ages were, I would suggest you do just a quick reference on an internet search, and what you will find is that it was a time of horrible atrocities across the planet, mostly in the Middle East and Europe. Kings doing horrible things to their people, the Crusades, Christians against Saracens, Saracens against Christians, Christians and Saracens against Hebrews. It was just an absolute mess. And life was very, very cheap. And unless you were wealthy, you really didn't have any value. So, when the Christians invaded the Middle East, it was for the cause of religion. And the things that they did in order to take back Jerusalem and take back the holy places that they considered holy was, they would crucify, they would hang, they would chop off heads, they would burn people at the stake. And now we have the radical Muslim extremists doing the exact same thing as we are, as that happened then. And again, if you see the people's response to this, oh my God, that's horrific, that's barbaric, etc., etc. This has been going on for a very long time in the name of God. And I'm just giving some simple examples here. The Hebrews, circumcision. You have to cut this thing off, and in the name of God, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if it has to come off, why did God put it on there in the first place? I mean, these are just really simple examples, but the point is there is so much doublethink in religions that it just simply doesn't make any sense, and that's because if you really stop to think about it, it doesn't. Religions today are nothing more than corporate governmental entities, acting entities, hiding behind a word called faith. And that's all they are. They have their own personal agendas. All you have to do is read the history of the Vatican. I mean, if nothing else, that will give you an incredible education. And yeah, they do some positive things, but when you put it in the scale, it goes completely the opposite direction. The real teachers, they taught people, they taught not only individuals and groups, but empowerment, self-empowerment, the idea of creating prosperity consciousness. They taught them the secrets about how the mind works and how you can create your own reality using your mind and proper thinking and planning things out and focusing on what you do want, not on what you don't want. And there are all kinds of tools available today in programs and in documentaries about all this. And it's really all about you creating you. All right? This is what it's really all about. Now, in the ancient days, these secrets were learned by the priesthoods who were studying and watching not only the kings, but also the extraterrestrial rulers. They watched what they did, and they recorded what they did. The problem is they didn't share it with the people. They kept it to themselves because they realized, wow, if we use these things, we can have control and power over the people when the gods leave. And that is exactly what happened. This is why it all went deep underground, because the rulers did not want to share it with the people because they didn't give a shit about the people. They only cared about themselves. And now things are changing because the frequency of the planet is changing. It is rising. Individuals are not only picking up on this, but they are getting their own spiritual essences because we're moving through the galactic plane, the plasma belt, Oort cloud, whatever they want to call it. And people's DNA is triggering, and DNA memory and consciousness is being triggered, and they're beginning to realize, you know what? I'm not just a sinner. I'm not just a slave. I'm not this. I'm not that. I am going to redefine myself as to who I really am and who I really want to be. And it isn't all of these things that media and religion have tried to program me to be. That is not who I am. And people are empowering themselves, and this has to happen. You know, this is just insanity, and they're running the same damn program over and over and over again. And, you know, it's time to step out of it. And this is why I share with you, if you can't individually change an event or do something about an event, approach it as the observer. Don't feed it with your energy. Don't feed it with your emotions, because that's exactly what they want. Because our consciousness, where our focus goes, energy flows. Where our consciousness is, this is where this is what they want, because what it does is it makes their event, it makes the reality that they are trying to create for us, this path they're leading us down, that they want us to go down. If we give them our energy, that only solidifies it in physicality. And we don't want to do that, because their agenda has nothing to do with us. It's their agenda, all right? It's about control, manipulation, enslavement. That's what they want. Because that's who they have this thought, this idea that they have a right to control and manipulate and harm and do whatever the hell they want with us. Well, it's quite the other way around. Okay, this physicality, this holograph that we live on Earth, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, study some quantum physics. This holograph, this physicality that we see is nothing more than color, light, and sound. And it is all driven by consciousness. And consciousness is driven by intent. This is why they want our attention. Okay, we are the ones, we the people, all over the planet, everyone here, we the people, including the animal kingdom, we are the ones who are creating this physicality. Okay, we are the power here, not them. Not them. We are the power. And I'm asking all of you to stop and think about that. You know, take a step back and realize if I change my thinking, I can make changes in my life. And that's exactly what has to happen. You know, individually, these things individually, you all need to do the work. We all need to do the work. All right? Because to change your vibration, to change the essence of who you are, you have to think differently. And in order to think differently, you have to know what it is you want. All right? And then you intentionally will begin to create that which you want. Do not focus on what you don't want. And I'm not the only one saying this. This is not a new message. But it is the message, okay? It is the message. Create what you want. Bless those things that you cannot control, but do not get drawn into it. Remain the observer. All right? Continue to focus on what you do want. And it isn't being selfish. It's about creating you. All right? It's about empowering you. And you cannot change the world. You cannot change your family. You cannot change your circumstances until you empower yourself. You know, and this is the message I give myself every single day. All right? I'm not trying to preach here. I'm just telling you it works, and we have to do this. Because it's getting crazy. There is extreme things beginning to happen. And, you know, the negative ETs, the powers that be, this whole group of negative field, these beings who feed off negative field, they need to leave. They have to go. They have to let us go. All right? So we have got to take a stand and stop feeding this nonsense that they're creating for us. So take a step back, figure out what it is that you want, and I mean really think about it. Go inside of yourselves. Find out what it is that you really want in you. Who is it that you are? And don't let any outside influence define that for you. You have to do that for yourself. All right? You have to do that for yourself. Because your perspective, your reasons for doing things, your personal thoughts, they are yours and they will always be yours. So you have to define who it is, in fact, you are and who you want to be. Once you have that down, then you begin to create yourself and what it is that you want. Whether it's, you know, spiritual, whether it's love, whether it's relationships, whether it's the missionary work, whatever it is that you want, you need to focus on what it is that you want. Don't feed the monster. What's the old story, the Native American story about the two wolves? You know, there's a dark wolf and a light wolf, and they were fighting each other, and who wins? And, you know, the old man says the one that you feed is the one that will win. So, you know, be aware of which wolf you're feeding. Of course, I simplified that story just to make the point that as your DNA begins to get turned back on, as we are moving through this Oort cloud, this energy field, this plasma field, things become more magnified. Things begin to happen. Creation begins to happen. Manifestation begins to happen much quicker. You need to be cognizant of that because you and ultimately only you are responsible for what you create in your life. And again, it all comes down to intent. What is it that you want? You really need to be focused on that. It isn't just about survival. Okay, none of us need to have to survive. And yes, some of us have challenges. Some of us are being screwed with by governmental sources or corporate sources. Others are being, just being messed with because we're sharing a message. Okay, but we still have to do our work. The blame game doesn't work. It only goes so far. Yes, there are obstacles, but obstacles can be overcome. So we still have to do the work ourselves, no matter what happens. So it's all about empowerment, that as the energy increases, you need to continue to focus on what it is that you want, those things that are positive. Okay? You want to create a positive field, a field of light, a field of knowing what you are, who you are, and what you want. You just continuously have to hold on to that and focus only on that, because that will manifest for you. No matter what, it will manifest for you. This is how the universe is set up. This is how it's set up. I mean, look at all the planets, look at all the stars, look at all the life. Just look at all of it from top to bottom. And even if you can't look at it, imagine what it is. How do you think it all got there? Because God created it. There was an intention to create life, diversity of life, the isness, whatever it's called. And it happened. And now you have civilizations, whether you believe in ETs or not, civilizations that are out there that are absolutely remarkable. How do you think they created it? They created it with intent. They focused on what they wanted, and they went out and they did it. They made it happen. And that is, we are no different, okay? That is just pure propaganda bullshit. And we don't have to buy it. We shouldn't buy it because it's a lie. It's only been done to disempower us. And you have to ask yourself, well, why would they want to disempower us? Because they're not us. They want control. They want to manipulate. They don't want humanity to strive. And their personal reasons no longer matter. This is about our survival as a race and as individuals. And this is what we need to do. This is where we need to focus on, okay? Now, I'm going to segue. One of the things that we talked about in the last webinar was approaching the mothership. So I wanted to share that with you, share this with you. The mothership was out near Ganymede, one of the moons of Jupiter. And in the very beginning, I spent a lot of time watching Jupiter. I just love Jupiter. Oh my God, it's so magnificent. And Mornay had to bring my attention over to the craft, over to Ganymede where the craft was, and it was rotating, around Ganymede. Or actually it wasn't rotating, but it was sitting in an orbit of Ganymede. And as we approached it, this field came out, and it was a ring, and it was just a light, ding, and there was a sound, but I cannot create the sound. Okay, I'm just not physically capable of creating the sound. Anyway, it came out, and what it looked like from a distance was Saturn with the rings, except that it was all lit up. Okay, it was all the same color. And as we moved, and I could see craft bouncing around, moving around it, et cetera, and they were all from this particular mothership. And as we moved into the ring of light that surrounded the craft, it entered the ship, it entered my body. Of course, it did this for everyone else on the craft. It entered my body somewhere around the solar plexus and the heart area, the chest area, and stomach solar plex area. And then it went up, and then it came down, and then it went sideways inside of me. And then it passed right through me out the back. Now, what I learned after that, as we got to the mothership, I asked Mornay what that was, what was that all about? And he said it was just reading your DNA and your soul. And I said, what do you mean, reading my soul? He goes, we know reincarnation. We know this to be a fact, and it is part of our culture and always has been. So we record souls, so we know who's coming back. As soon as a child is born here, we know who it is because it's scanned. So we know that, and he gave the example of Phaseus. If Phaseus returns, when he returns, we will know it's him. So they have this register. And that's what it is. It's a register. And they know who's there. And if it's someone they do not know, they do not recognize, that is not in the register, that being, that craft that he's on, assuming he's not flying, do not recognize that craft has to go through a different set of protocols. They just don't let anybody in, okay? Now, we were able to pass. And he said, because it recognizes you. And I said, well, but I've not been here before. He goes, well, you have. He goes, you have. And there's a part of me that is already out there on fifth density. I have not met my future self. But it's there. It's there. And I share this with you because, ladies and gentlemen, we are multidimensional. We are in different places. We are different. We are experiencing different realities. There is so much more to us than they want us to know. And there is absolutely no reason that we would allow any beings, any force to entrap us in third density to feed their greed. There's just no reason to do this. And I just thought it was interesting to share that with you, because I want you to think in a different way. I want you to think bigger picture, because this is bigger picture. This process that we are all going through here on Earth is very, very important to the growth of our galaxy. We are key players, and like I've said earlier and at other times, this is a real-life chess game, a multi-dimensional chess game that's going on between light and dark, and the pieces are real, but unfortunately they're mostly unaware, and we're the pieces, okay? We're the pieces. So you can choose to be aware, but you have to do the work, all right? It doesn't come in a magic bottle. It doesn't come with a crystal. It doesn't come in one or two meditations. It's about you doing the work and being completely honest with who you are and who you believe yourself to be. Discounting everything everybody else has told you. You need to make those decisions for yourself about who you are and who you want to be. And if you're exactly who you are and you're awesome, go for it. Then connect. Then focus your connection to Source. All right.
From Tobias, have you and the Andromedans discussed the social norms our societies have that they are restrictive, keeping us from developing too far?
That's a great question. And, all cultures, whether they're Earth or not, they have social norms. They have their way of integrating their everyday activities and reasons for celebration. They all have their own different ones, and their intentions are what their intentions are. I can tell you only the A perspective, and this actually came up in a conversation when I was approaching the Scoutcraft with Mornay, and Visayas was watching television, believe it or not, on the ship, which I told him was not a good idea. He was watching television of a Chicago police officer shooting a black man and then running over trying to save his life. He just simply didn't understand that. And, I couldn't really explain it either. Once I really stopped to think about it, it doesn't make any sense. And I can only express what their perspective is. And that is that whatever the social norms, the way of relating to everyday life, if it's not empowering or healing or creating joy, then it really should not be a part of the norm of your everyday life. Because the idea is to focus on creating health, in creating joy, in creating a positive field, or a positive energy, frequency. Because only positive energy and frequency elevates the whole organism. And humanity, their humanity is an organism. It's a family, and that's exactly how they view it. That is, in fact, how they see it. They view it. Now, what's interesting is that, they have different physicalities within their race, but one is no better than the other. They just simply don't even go there. They don't see a difference. They just see diversity, which they see as being healthy. Where here, we have been taught, and I stress this, we've been taught to see it differently, all right? And when you break it down, the agenda to teach us to see each other as different, one being better, one being less, is used to divide and conquer humanity so that we do not come together as one organism, one family. And this has effectively worked in keeping us slaves. And some of the mechanisms to get back to that is through religions, is through racial strife, teaching everyone differently, treating everyone differently, This has all been done on purpose, folks. This is humanity at one time spoke the same language. We saw each other as a family, and we were working with extraterrestrial groups. It shifted. At some point in history, all of that shifted. And we were divided. Languages were changed to divide us so that we couldn't communicate with each other for quite some time. Religions were manufactured, in order to have a different perspective on, how to view an all-supreme power, excluding the fact that, it and us are one and the same, and have the same abilities to create and are on a path of self-evolution. All of that was taken out for the most part, and then it was used to, keep us at war with each other. So as far as the social norms, if we could honestly stop fighting with each other and sit down and look at what we do every day, how our everyday life is, and our holidays and all of that, and say what really serves humanity. And if it actually creates and promotes positive self-image, if it produces positive self-image, then it's probably something that should be okay, I would think. But it should be something that's real. It should be something that's based in reality. Because after all, this is what it's about, right? It's about being real. It's about being real. It's about being authentic all the time, every day, making life sacred. And what was probably lost is the fact that, when we talk about, life being sacred, the A's have shared that any civilization, all right, that practices self-genocide, aka abortion, has not, for more than 120 years, has never survived. That culture, that race has never survived. So we really need to stop, and we really need to rethink what we're doing here. We really do. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is about us. It's not about government. It's not about religion. This is about we the people. All right? We the people. We as one race. We as one family, irregardless of the color of our skin or our language. We have got to watch each other's back. Government's not going to do it. Religion isn't going to do it. It's obvious. It's right in front of you. All they want is more power. And once they get all the power, they're still not going to be happy, okay? Because they're drunk and they're obsessed with it. It will never, ever be enough. And you can't feed a hungry lion because it devours everything. And when everything is gone, it implodes. And then everything's lost. It's all gone. It's all done. Why would we even go there? We can't. We can't go there. So getting back to Tobias's question, the social norm, that's pretty much how they operate.
I have
social norms.
a corollary or another angle on this that I think maybe he might be getting at. And this is a very, very normal thing, is competitive sport. What do the A's say about the way people jump up and down at football games and swear and cuss and turn into monsters when they're just watching their team?
Well, I don't know about that. They've never actually approached how people behave at sporting events, but I do know that they have competitive sports or competitiveness. They have things that they do where they compete, and sometimes they do it against other races as well. But it is all done in the spirit of joy and entertainment. And usually what happens is that if there is one particular group or tribe that's better than others, they teach the others how they got to that level. It's not where they maintain it as a a place of superiority. If they have done something, or if they've done, they do things in a specific sequence that makes them faster, stronger, whatever it is, they teach it to the others so that everyone moves up. It evolves. It's called the law of consistency. And most of the benevolent races, use this. They practice this, the law of consistency. So it isn't where they do it as power over. They have a completely different perspective.
I love it. I totally love it.
Okay.
Totally love it. Thank you. I mean, that is a really uplifting attitude to have, isn't it?
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
And then there's no animosity, none whatsoever. And then then it's just a game. It's just a friendly game, and the joy is in playing it.
and that's the kind of ideal that people talk about. Oh, it's it's not the winning, it's the playing. No, but for most people on the planet, it's like I got to win, because we're put into this, Hunger Games kind of situation, and that's.
Well, we are, and that's the whole survival thing, and literally what it does. And I think on some levels, especially on the financial level and the military level, I think what happens is if you reach a point where you kind of detach yourself from humanity, because then it all becomes about the winning. And you don't care what happens to anybody as long as you win. And that's where you detach from humanity. And those people are primed to be used by the powers that be and the regressive alien groups to become their minions. They're perfect because they don't care about anybody but themselves, and they're easily manipulated.
So, when we came to when we got to the point on the tape, the picture returned and you returned. Well, and people will see this in a couple of minutes. You were talking about how they keep you. How do they mentally control you? And you were saying no, they just basically make sure that you don't have any cash and have a difficult time of it. So do you just want to
they manipulate circumstances around me.
Yeah. So I mean.
Yeah.
How does that work for you? And is there any way we can kind of outsmart it?
It hasn't worked, but it hasn't worked. And what I continue to do is to work on myself and mentally and hopefully positively, try to create the future that I want and the things that I want, my own positive field. And out of that came the idea about doing the webinars. And and now maybe they're starting to manipulate that a little bit. It looks like, they're taking some of the meat out of the presentations. But all I can do is just continue to fight the fight and, keep marching on. It would be very easy to quit. It would. And I've thought about it more times than I can remember. But it isn't what I want. It's not what I want to quit. For whatever reason, and I don't know why it was me, I have been given an opportunity to actually have another perspective, a real, genuine, different perspective about us. And I feel that I have an obligation to try to relate that to others, to try to empower others to want to change the way we are. Because the way we are is we're being manipulated into this position of surrendering not only our sovereignty, but our freedom to create as a soul. And the purposes for doing this is simply to allow another group to feed off of us. And I am not okay with that. I am absolutely not okay with that. And I never will be.
That's how I'm controlled, is by economics, by making sure that I am in survival. But no, not at any other level at all.
Thank you.
You know, I choose when to speak and when not to. And I choose my friends just through experience. Some people are not always who they are, and you know, I'm very protective. You know, there's a part of me inside that's very tender, and I'm very protective of that. So that's just what it is. Next.
This is from Beck. Can you talk more about dreams? Does your soul leave your body when you sleep? Do you dream every night? Do you go back to your soul family? I imagine one. How can your dreams help with your purpose and joy in life?
Well, that's an outstanding question. You know, I think on some level everyone dreams. When somebody says, I never have a dream, I just simply don't think that's true. I think there's just a part of them that has flipped the switch, and they choose not to remember it, or they're not meant to. As far as people leaving their bodies, I think if you are in a dream and you have the conscious recognition that you're in a dream, you are in fact out of your body. And you are capable of traveling at that point. Now, the Toltecs have done this. They're very, very good at this. They will actually learn to send their dreaming body to different places, irregardless of time and space. They are able to do this, to get information, to get answers, to help, and or to manipulate a situation. With positive intent, of course. Okay? In so doing that, you are traversing fourth and fifth density, from what I understand. And there are hazards if you don't know your way around. Oftentimes, especially in lower fourth, you will see things or beings who are not as they appear to be. And it's been my personal experience that when I'm in situations like that and someone is attempting to communicate to me, the first thing I do is I look at them and I stick my pinky out and I say, show me your true self. And they have to show you. And if it isn't someone I recognize, a soul I recognize, I'm out of there. I change the dream immediately and I go someplace else. And you have the power to do that. Okay? My point is this. You don't need to look for a master. Okay? You already are. God, I hate that word. You're enlightened. You don't need to find somebody far more enlightened than you. You already are enlightened. You just need to remember where that information is, where that part of you is. That's what you need to connect with. As far as doing dreams, you can clean up a lot of karma, you can do rites, but you have to learn to do that, and there's a process. I do not and would never, ever suggest anyone ever use Ekankar to do anything like that. There are many books, but basically self-experimentation is the best. Now, when you are out of your body, when you're dreaming and you know you're in the dream and you're capable of going anywhere you want, that's your dreaming body. Learn to work with that. Okay? There's lots of books about it. There's a lot of information out there. And if you're ever out there and you have to be very, very specific. I want to meet a being that has only my highest intent. I want to meet someone who has only my highest intent. You have to be really specific and check who they are. Okay? There's a lot more to that issue, and that would burn up the rest of the time. But I'll make a note of that, and we can talk about that in the next webinar. I think that's a really good one, because a lot more people are experiencing incredible dreams and out-of-body experiences. And I think it's really good that we talk about that. Excellent question. Excellent question.
Excellent. So dreams, the subject of dreams for next time. Okay, now here's some Yeah, and here's yeah. Okay, so maybe if you could expand on the question as well. So he's saying, this is Joanne. Sorry, she's saying, do you have knowledge of the group called the Guardian Alliance, and do they work with the Andromedan Council? And what I'd like to expand that and like, could you list out the guys who are real and the guys who are not real? If you see what I mean, like there are people who are like channeled and the Galactic Federation of Light doesn't really exist. It's a front for this or that. Uh, do they actually call themselves stuff like this, or is this just La La Land as well?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know anything about a Guardian Alliance, um, nor has any group been presented to me that way. To say that they would not present themselves that way to us, I don't know if they would or they wouldn't. They go out of their way to try to accommodate us, to give us a point of reference and a point of understanding who and what they are and what they do. It's possible that they could a group would present themselves as guardians, and as an alliance, meaning more than one group. It's possible that they would do that because that's something we would understand and we would find comfort in, and we could add significant meaning to. So, I mean, again, you have to understand that we are dealing with higher dimensions where they don't use speech. Everything's telepathic. So they have to break it down to create speech and to create language that's almost like first grade to them so that we can understand their positions and who they are and what they're about. It would be no different than Stephen Hawking's trying to talk to a newborn baby and wondering if he was getting it. That's sort of what it's like with us. And there's no judgment. They get why that is because we're evolving. But nonetheless, there are some differences in how we absorb information and how we take information in. And they do their best to try to accommodate us so that we get their point, we get their intention. Okay? So, yeah. I personally have not heard of a Guardian Alliance.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean they're not involved. I don't know.
That's right. Doesn't mean they're not. Okay. Nice little snippet of a question here. Can we have multiple lives at the same time?
Yes. Yes. I know that to be a fact in my case. I know that to be a fact. I have not met any of my other selves. I know there's a part of me on 5. That's how the ship knew me. That was my point. That was my point of bringing it up. But I have not met. I don't even know if it was on the ship. It may have been someplace else. I don't even know. But I put that together later, and they acknowledged that.
Yeah, you may have visited the ship.
Yes, you're very busy souls, all of you.
So that's sort of like Andromeda Council things again. Right, okay. Again from Joanne, what is your experience with the Lyrans? I've recently started communication with my Lyran higher aspect. Lyran.
The Lyrans. My personal experience has been 0 with Lyrans. I have seen other races, but I was never told specifically if it was them. The Lyrans are, of course, the oldest form of human beings in our universe. But they come from someplace else. Their lineage, their heritage, their genetic strain is beyond ancient. It's literally timeless. So I would say go for it. Um, but approach them as equals. In everything you do, approach them as equals. So, declare, your knowledge and your sovereignty and your independence, at all times. And they will respect that. And if they don't respect it, then you're talking to the wrong group.
Aha. There's the rub. This is from Andrew. Conspiracy is associated with disrepute in our society. Nicely put. How do we make all the different conspiracy groups band together to deal with the elite once and for all?
I don't know. Personally, I don't know that we can deal with these guys ourselves. I think that we are in over our head as far as the group. And that's why the cavalry is coming, because they know we can't deal with these guys. What we can do is deal with ourselves and change the perspective we have about our own human race. We need to continue to move in the direction that we are all family. We just are family. And we need that consciousness, that awareness that we are family. As far as the moheads, jackals, and bozos, we're in over our head, and that's why the cavalry is coming, because they know, we don't think holographically. We don't have the treachery that these people have. We have empathy. How do you rationalize with beings that have absolutely no empathy because it is simply not part of their makeup? You can't. Okay, that has to be dealt with on another level. And that other level is the good guys. It's not us. As far as banding together, communication, talking. People are waking up everywhere. It's just amazing, and I'm so encouraged myself. How many people are getting it? 30 years ago when I started talking, I would talk to two people, one person. Sometimes no one would show up, and I'd go get a hamburger, because no one would show up, and many of the other speakers as well. Very small crowds. Now they're, so many of them are huge. David Icke, and Mr. Wilcock, and so many of the others. Michael Sala, and Rob Potter, and all of these. There's just so many fantastic speakers out there, spreading the word. This is positive, and people are starting to listen, especially the millennials. They're getting it, and it's extremely encouraging. It's all good. I truly believe the outcome is going to be positive, but we cannot sit on our laurels. We need to continue to stretch ourselves forward, and reach forward, expand ourselves, take ourselves out of our own comfort zone, to stretch our own spirituality, to absorb more and to want to know more, okay, and experience more. So that's how I answer that.
Thanks. Yeah, I remember I went to see David Icke with my wife 20 years ago in Glastonbury. There was literally 5 people and a dog, and we were 2 of them.
There. Us old-timers know all about that. And a kook, a louse, a liar, a fraud, and this and that, and da. Things I talked about 30 years ago, they're everywhere now. That's everywhere now, And some of those things I was the very first to bring to light. And now everybody's talking about it. And now it's fact. So, you just have to persevere. You just do. You just have to go
thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you.
It's been an honor and a privilege. It's been a royal pain in the ass, but it's been an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yes. Here we go. Do you feel... I'm asking many questions from Joanne, but she says, they're just coming up. Do you feel there would be different vibrational timelines and realities running side by side, that those on AI and Dark Force timelines, feeding fear, etc., not seeing the higher vibrational timelines available? Yeah. So is there like plenty of other place to get to, but the people who are trying to create a single tyrannical
Singularity.
timeline. Sorry, or am I just babbling? Shut up.
Well, I'm not sure that I exactly understand the question, but I can tell you that timelines are merging. We had one merge not so long ago, and it's all being done using very, very advanced spiritual technology. And if I could use an example of like a siphon, what is it you put loose tea in, and then you drop it into a cup?
An
What is that
infuser.
called? Huh?
An infuser, it's called.
An infuser.
Or a
Okay.
tea bag.
What's happening using this technology from fourth, and I believe some of it is even as high as sixth and seventh. The technology that's being used to merge the timelines is that this diffuser is in place, and as this timeline B is merging into timeline A, which is the true timeline, the original timeline, it is diffusing that which is repetitive, and it's dissolving it. And that which is individual and singular is being allowed to merge into the original timeline. So we're not getting duplicates of crap, okay? But they have to do this in order to right a terrible wrong that was done. And that's what's happening. I don't understand it. I'm just a very simple person. I don't understand all the technical developments of that, but I do understand that that which already exists here is not coming back in itself again. Okay, so there won't be two assholes as opposed to just the one.
Oh, thank
Right?
God for that. Can I press you on the terrible wrong that needs to be righted and what it takes to right the wrong?
Well, the terrible wrong was that civilizations fell, became non-existent, and tyranny ruled our galaxy in a horrible way. And it appeared like out of nowhere. It appeared like out of nowhere. It just came down. Boom. And in deciphering that, they were able to find key moments, mechanisms, events that allowed that event to occur. See, when it came down the first time, the AIs, they weren't very thorough. They left openings to the past. They didn't shut everything down. So the good guys, they went back into these portals into the past to find out exactly what happened. And they came back with the knowledge, and they began going back and forth, changing those events. And that is what you're seeing now, is literally, if you could assume the top, if you had a grill that has a top that comes down, all right, the tyranny had dropped. But they weren't thorough. Now the lid is lifting and it's coming back up because they're changing events that have happened. And one of those events has to do with us and what we're experiencing, allowing Earth and humanity to evolve to another dimension, to another density. And 22 very specific, strategically located star systems are a part of this. We're one of the 22, obviously. So that's what happened. See, the AIs, they're very clever, but they can only copy. They can't create anything. They only copy stuff that already exists. Where those that have soul, we're very ingenious. We're very, very strong in creating new realities, new domains of knowing, as the A's would put it. Okay? That's what happened. That's what happened.
Thank you. So I think your word domains of knowing, your term domains of knowing. Nowadays, I think they call that a meme.
You call that what?
A meme, M-E-M-E. And
Okay.
they're generally like a photograph from a movie and an expression with the attitude that is coming from the photograph. It's a long story. I'll find
Okay.
some.
Let's get
Find
to the
something.
question.
But to the questions. Okay. Oh, yes. Well, what will happen? This is from Lauren. What will happen to those who do not make the shift? Will they just be stuck in the same situation that we are now?
Lauren, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I honestly don't know. I can ask. I'm not sure that Mornay would know, but I can ask the question. I personally do not know. I don't know. I haven't actually thought about defeat. So
Good. Okay.
um,
Well, let's stay on the positive end of that.
I will ask that question. It's a valid question. I'll ask.
It is indeed. Oh, right. Yeah, here's a good one. Do we have Bigfoot DNA? Is there Sasquatch in our bodies?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that. That's not to say
Okay.
yes or no. I'm not aware of that.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not the shall answer man. Only vintage people would know what that is. There's a commercial where he had all these answers about everything to do with everything. I'm not that guy. I don't know everything.
So, now here's an interesting question. Does Alex have any familiarity with the teachings of Scientology in its early days? If so, does he feel any of it started in truth, or was it always just a money con?
Well, I was never drawn to Scientology. Was never drawn to it at all, ever. And it was just not part of my path, so I cannot speak intelligently about it at all, because I don't know. So,
Okay, good. Moving on. If anybody, Arnaldo Lerma is a guy you want to listen to about Scientologists, and he was one of the engineers who made the machine. Anyway, okay. Planet X. What's the latest on Planet X? Nibiru. A few years ago, it was coming in thick and fast, and it's not here yet, but it's the same soon, isn't it, Alex?
I've been told that sometime towards the end of December, the beginning of January, we will see it coming out from behind the sun. It will be visible to the naked eye.
All right, something to
That's
look
what I've
forward
been
to
told.
over the Christmas.
So let's stand by. We'll all find out together.
Okay. All right. Whoop. Right. As we have, yeah. This is from Kerry. As we are the ones we have been waiting for, does Alex see the Dragon family and the global assets playing a role here?
Okay, the Dragon family, they're referring to the Chinese, some of the older Chinese families.
Yeah,
The
and the
Dragon
Ben
family is
Fulford reports and
a
things.
symbol of strength and honor, and that's the Chinese culture. Yes, I do. But again, money is a tool. And eventually, at some point, we will move through that and past that. I don't know when that will be specifically. But if you're referring to shifts in the markets and something that's honorable and cannot be easily manipulated to destroy people's lives and countries, yes, I see that happening. There is a great deal of effort behind that because everybody's pretty fed up with the guys at the top. They don't even follow their own rules. So why have any rules, So everybody's pretty sick of them, and I do see it coming about. But I also see a great deal of turmoil as the powers that be kick and scratch and claw, into surrender, So they're going to have to be dealt with harshly, unfortunately. And a reckoning is coming. I can honestly tell you that, and they know it, that a reckoning is coming. and they deserve every bit of it. They deserve every bit, of the reckoning that's coming. All capital letters. So that's it. That's my answer.
This is from Beck. Do you recommend humans use specific gemstones like tektite, moldavite, or monatomic gold and other elements to evolve spiritually and activate your DNA? How quickly can we activate our DNA? Days, weeks, months? And is there a mail order package we can order? Yeah, no, I added the last bit.
Mail order package. They're all tools, and tools are very helpful. But you have to remember, it is you doing the work. The tools only reflect that which is inside of you. So don't lose focus that whatever it's doing, it is only reflecting out or back at you that which you are and that which you think. It begins and it ends with you. Don't forget that. The tools aren't doing the work, you are. Always strive to empower yourself, not the tools. Okay? It's not outside of you. It's inside of you. It cannot be any other way.
Yeah, it says here, the Anunnaki are very good at masquerading as another race. How much of the current new information about aliens and extraterrestrials are actually Anunnaki deflecting what they do onto another race? Yeah, can you talk about the overlays that there seems to be an overlaying race that disguises everything. Is it just one, or is everybody doing it? Is everybody coming to the party with a mask?
The masks are actually being pulled off of everybody. No one is being invited to the party. No one is being invited to the party that is deceitful in any way, except for the group that's already here, and they've been quarantined. But their masks are being lifted as the shield around the earth is being lifted, and holes are being burned in it. The stupid shield to keep us all ignorant. That is dissipating, so the masks are coming off. If you, on any kind of an intuitive level, suspect something not being what it is, then you need to ask more questions. You need to challenge it. You absolutely should do whatever it is that you do. I would say absolutely trust your gut at all times. Trust your gut. And if you don't know how to trust your gut, you need to learn how to trust your gut. But I'm not aware of races coming in, well, we're this and we're that. All that shit's done with. We're now in the late innings here, folks, of the game. We're like in the seventh, bottom of the eighth, top of the eighth inning here. So everybody pretty much knows who all the players are. So, but if you don't have a good feeling about it, walk away. Just walk away.
Thank you. Just walk away. Right, there we go. No, that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry?
They haven't come knocking on the door yet, so let's just keep doing some questions.
Yeah. Okay. Did you meet any Andromedans by name on the biosphere, and are you able to still communicate with them?
By name. They have symbols. Technically they use symbols. Okay? And no, only Mornay specifically is my only real contact.
Okay. When you say a symbol, this is a telepathic thing rather than a physical badge that they're wearing or something.
Well, yeah, it's a holographic. It's a holograph that each person has as a symbol, and that symbol contains. It's like a resume. They would project that holographic symbol, let's say, to you, and you would have their entire resume right in there. Well, see, we don't understand that part because we're not telepathic, or most of us aren't. So we wouldn't know how to read it. But that's what they do, and it's a symbol. It's not a name. So It's a symbol.
Okay, so it's not small talk. So they don't get to know each other. It's bang, they, oh, hello. All right, okay. Okay, so there we go. Right.
Everybody has to be authentic. When you're dealing telepathically, you have to be authentic. There is no getting around it. You can't hide shit. You just can't hide anything. You know, it's all or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a very good
very
point.
uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
can be very uncomfortable.
So this is from Sai. Perhaps I'm missing something, but who or what exactly are the AI? Who are the reptilians, the archons, the Valons? And, there are all these names that are bandied around. Are they all the same thing? Are they the macrobes of John Dee? Are they, there's all these different names that we're getting. So there's the Valons who appeared 300 years ago, and according to the Akashic records from Chris Thomas. There's the archons from the Gnostic texts. There's the reptilians. There's the AI. Who do you know who's who? Have they told you who's who and what's what?
Okay, if we're dealing with AI, I can tell you unequivocally virtually all of the archons are AIs. Okay? As far as the reptilians, some of the working class or warrior class are AIs. Most are not. Most have soul. They have just chosen a different path. And as far as the Valons, I'm not familiar with that group. But many of the Orion groups, they have soul. They have created AI bodies or devices that would work in very, very extreme, harsh environments to do work for them, such as mining, fixing equipment, like those that are in the ring of Saturn. They have beings that work those things that essentially are machines. And what they do is they make sure that the machinery, whether it sits there for 15, 16, 25, 50,000 years, continues to work. And their job is to maintain it. They will have a form, but they are in fact machines. Artificial intelligence. And their program is to work and fix those machines. Other AIs have different things. It's complicated because, we don't realize the diversity of life out there. We're babes in the woods. Most of this information has not been shared with us at all. We're starting to see some of it in movies now, which is good. So they're trying to tell us in their own way. But the scope of life just in our own galaxy is enormous. And there is all kinds of life there. All kinds. Things we couldn't even imagine. We would be like, no way. And yet it exists, and it holds consciousness. Or it doesn't. It operates through a series of commands or microprocessors, organic microprocessors, whatever those are, whatever they look like. It wouldn't be technology we have here. It would be something far different that would represent a cell, but yet it is in fact mechanical. So the level of, there is no simple way to answer that question, only because some of the information is almost impossible to translate in English because our language is so limited.
Thank you. I can't pronounce this person's name. I don't even know. Have you heard of the race called the Jefok? Jefok. There is an inference in the Alien Race book that they are a peaceful race who met with JFK.
No,
No.
I'm not familiar with them at all. I don't know everything.
Yeah. So, this is from Björn. What is our prime object of defense in the close 10 years' time? So, I mean, in the next 10 years. I'm not sure. Basically, I think he's saying how can we defend ourselves in the next 10 years through what's going on? And it's not about defense, really, is it?
Evolve. We have to spiritually evolve. Focus on spiritual evolution, and focus on what you do want, not on what you don't want. Okay? Put your energy towards what you want, and you will change your frequency, which means the frequency of harm, the frequency of war, all that other crap, that frequency will not be part of your reality. Okay? We need to ascend out of this cesspool of crap. Okay? And everything is frequency, color, light, and sound. That's what creates a holograph. The solidity of what we know as reality in 3D. We have to change our frequency. If we focus on raising our frequency, all those other things will not exist in our reality. They will fall away. That's the only way to truly defend yourself, is to rise above it.
Evolve. Evolve. From Lauren, you mentioned in the past webinars that 14 out of the 21 systems going through the same situation as us are now free.
Right.
Do you know exactly how they were able to break free, and has that number changed?
I have, as far as I know, the number hasn't changed, and I have been told that I would be given that. I don't have it yet.
And, right.
In other words,
Okay.
it's still on my to-do list. It's still on my to-do list.
Is there still a flood danger present for coastal Californians? This is from Reed.
The concern of flooding is the whole world. So the answer is yes. I don't have a date. I wish I did. But, you know, I was told it would have happened a lot sooner, and it still hasn't. So I don't know what to tell you. Planet X, Hercopolis, whatever names they're calling it these days, that's a game changer. That is going to be a game changer. So we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out. You know, the more information I get, I will certainly pass it on to you guys. You know, we're family. So I'll make sure you get the data.
Thank you. So, from Beck, Alex, related to the Dragon family, are China and Russia for or against the New World Order? Are Putin and Xi Jinping for or against humanity? Thanks, Alex.
Well, if you just take appearances, you would have to say they're not for the New World Order, and they appear to be championing humanity. The fact that they have taken stands against the corruption of the current monetary system and want to create something different says a lot about what their position is. And they seem very intent on doing that and following through. So at this particular point, I would have to say that they are for humanity, based on their actions.
So that we shouldn't be scared of Russia and China, actually, that they're trying to help us.
You know, it's a shame. We as Americans, the only time we actually are safe is when, you know, Congress isn't in session. You know, when they're away, that's the only time we're safe, because they're not passing laws taking away our freedoms.
That's all they seem to do, isn't it? All right, so talking about weird stuff, the Hadron Collider. Now, some of my guests in last week have been saying that this machine is worse than breaking down. It's like drilling holes in the side of it and causing geysers in Geneva. There's like a 200-foot pile of water the other night. This beam burst through a sewer. I don't know whether you get sort of live updates from your guys. What have you heard about the Hadron Collider?
I haven't heard any of that information. I just know that they are not going to allow it to open up portals. It's just not going to happen. You know, and that which is not meant to be here isn't going to come here. Okay? So it's an interesting scenario. There are so many things going on such multiple levels. And like I said earlier in the webinar here, you know, this is a real-life game of chess, a multi-dimensional game of chess where the pieces are live but unaware. So I can't even truly begin to fathom how complicated it is. But if this device doesn't have man's highest intention, they're never going to allow it to do what they think it can do. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Bless you, no problem. No problem.
Yes, ma'am. Gotcha.
Okay.
Let's hurry up. Let's do one more question, okay?
Okay. This is a nice one to finish with. In the last webinar, you said you speak more about the day in the life of Andromedans. Can you talk more about the Andromedad school system? Do children actually go to a place for school with other children, or is their education immersed with their life? What a great question to end with.
Okay, my understanding is that they don't sit in classrooms where they're bored. Yes, ma'am. They don't sit in classrooms where they're bored. Whatever they do, it's all hands-on and it's experiential, which includes parks and meadows. And, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I won't be harassed until the person shows up.
Well, that's not, a person will show up to harass you in a few minutes. Okay, so
I can answer the question. From what I have seen, their education is experiential on all levels. They're not I've never once seen them sitting in a classroom. Most of the children that I saw were being taught whatever their lessons were in a park area. If it has to do with spaceflight or machinery, they are there. They are part of the crew. They are working all hands-on. They are free to ask any and all questions about anything. My understanding is that the children are taught everything that the parents know and more, because they understand that in order for the civilization to survive, they practice what is called the law of consistency. The youngest need to know what the oldest know, so that there is no loss of knowledge. And that the future generations, they are taught to exceed beyond the older generations. And it is not thought of as a threat or as the idea of control. But again, their society is not like ours here on Earth. Okay, it's different. They have different protocols and different relationships, but and this I think would be very, very important when the mentoring comes in, so that we can understand, how can we change the things we do? If there are better ways, wouldn't we want to know? Of course we would. So, and that's the dealio. That's how that works. So. But I don't know specifically what the lessons were, because they were all she was talking to them telepathically, or he, as their instructor, was talking to them telepathically. I did not hear every single word. I wasn't privy to individual conversations at all. Pretty much Morene was in my head, watching my change of thoughts and the processes and the emotions that I was going through, and seeing the things that were going on. Because, when I first got on board the ship, I didn't see a lot of things, because my mind, my subconscious, and my mind didn't recognize things. So there were things that I could see that I was familiar with, and other parts of it were just gray. I didn't know what was there. And over time, over a period of what I believe to be weeks, I began to see more and more and more as things came into focus, and I began to understand what it was that I was seeing. I was literally first grade. I was literally in first grade there. There were things that took me a while, time to even see for the first time. Because I had no way of knowing what it was prior to that experience.
can't say the name again, Harian, were you allowed to socialize with other Andromedans? From what you said, I don't think the answer is yes, but did you meet,
Yeah,
did you hang out? I mean, what
I
kind of
observed.
activities you were involved in?
I just observed. Um, I was in complete awe of my surroundings. And, I was in a park, which I have said in the past, um, reminded me of some places in Southern California. And they had holographic skies where it would change from twilight to day to sunsets. And the whole time that this is occurring and I am in this place, I'm cognizant that I am in a spacecraft traveling through space or just sitting, not far from the moon Ganymede in our own star system, and knowing that, Earth wasn't far away either, that it would take them minutes to get me there. I was pretty much in awe of just how incredible and remarkable life really can be. And, watching these children learn whatever it was that they were learning, there were some who came and approached me and put their hands out, or would make a gesture to me like an acknowledgement. But most of the time, Mornay was right there. He was mentoring me and making sure that I truly understood what it was that I was supposed to get out of this experience. And he and I did most of the talking. There was one incident with a woman that I saw, and I went someplace, and I was immediately confronted by that because I didn't understand. It's not that I did anything wrong. It's just that I was infringing on a protocol that I wasn't aware of. But hell, it was my first time on a mothership. I didn't know. So it was just little things like that. I was mostly the observer. And I was just trying to take it all in. And, for years, I wasn't sure what I would ever do with this information. There are still some things I don't know what to do with it. Maybe in the future I will know more. I wish that they could just take 1,000,000 people up there and say, here you go, guys. This is what it is. And then we all see it. You're all there for a couple of months. You absorb it. You know what it is. You know it's real. You've internalized it. And then send us back down here. And now we all have the same point of reference, regarding the experience, and the same point of reference of the knowledge that, yeah, this is real. This is what it could be, and it's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. I wish that. I do. I wish that. I ask for that all the time. Because I don't want to be the only one. I don't. And I'm not, but I haven't heard anybody else coming forward and talking about it. So, anyway, next question. I don't want to ramble.
Well, these are your feelings, and I think many people in your position would feel the same way. You see, and it's your honesty that people value and love, and so it's not rambling. You're telling people your experience, which is overwhelmingly different, literally alien, from the 9 to 5, the going to the cubicle, every week, every
Yep.
day,
Yep.
it's a very different experience. And, to be taken out of time where we are, subjected to time day in, day out, literally, all of our words are connected with time. So to be able, and, the big pauses that you make when you're talking about things, they also tell the story of how enormous a thing you're talking about is. So, with that said,
We have 6 minutes.
um,
We have 6 minutes left.
6 minutes to go. So, hey, Björn, how do we humans detect an AI? There's another good question.
I would think our soul would know. Um, Now, my own personal experience, which was relatively short, was that I felt absolutely no connection whatsoever with this automaton or whatever it was, this creature. There was no warmth coming from it. And I just knew that there was no soul. Now, maybe it's because I was up on the craft with them. I don't know if that would be the same here on Earth. I've not run across. I have seen people without auras, with zero auras, and I suspect that they're AIs. But I've not actually been really close to one here on Earth, at least not yet. So that's the only answer I can give you. I would think your soul would know. I would think that your gut, your intuition, which is your soul, your higher self, it would know. It would definitely know if you were in the presence of something that had no soul. I would think it would know.
Did you pick up any extra sense of a machine sense, or instead of talking to a soft human, you're talking to something hard like steel, or hard like wood, or hard like stone? Any of those qualities?
I've not had communication in that way with anything like that, so I don't know.
Nancy says, I heard that when we die, we should not go to the light, as it is a trick to recapture our soul to rebirth on Earth. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what I was told. Visayas was very specific. He said, you, of course, can choose to do whatever you want, but none of you ever turn around and look what's behind you. And when I asked, well, what is behind me? He said, freedom. Freedom of Earth. Freedom of the reincarnational cycle. So, that's what I was told.
Thank you so much for struggling through, being a real trooper with this. I know you're suffering from a cold, and you've been croaking a little bit through the. Maybe I'll put on some flashcards or something when I do the edits. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Any last words, Alex?
Be strong, be brave. We're in this together. We'll come out of it. We will come we'll come out the other end stronger and better for it. And just keep focusing on what you do want. Don't focus on what you don't want. Okay? Be the observer. It's really important. Okay? Then you won't give your power away. I love you. Take care.